fucking beauty.
All right, everyone. It has been 24 years
Ish
since the last Mortal Kombat live action. Well, not the live action Mortal Kombat, like an actual big studio, New Line Cinema thing came out. So it's been a while, and there's gonna be a rant that comes from me later on in this because I borderline can't fucking stand how people review movies nowadays. Borderline can't fucking stand it. And we're going to get to that. But yeah, that's going to be a little bit middle of the road thing. Because I do actually want to talk about this because I cannot even mention to you how happy I was with how this movie turned out. So Mike, go ahead.
All right. So this is the 2021 reboot of Mortal Kombat. In this movie, we see we follow Cole Young, a washed-up MMA fighter, unaware of his heritage, and hunted by Emperor Shang Tsung's best warrior, Sub-Zero. He seeks out and trains with Earth's greatest champions. So you got Sonya Blade, Kano, apparently, Liu Kang, all assembled by Lord Raiden. He trains with them as they prepare to stand against the enemies of Outworld in a high-stakes battle for the universe. Yeah, by the way, there's going to be lots of spoilers.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure and try to do it from now on. I feel like it helps because, trust me, some people don't understand it. All right. Anyway, so we need to start out with something. I mentioned this during our Annihilation review because we're going to talk about things that we like about this movie. And we're going to take a little bit of a trip to about 2 days ago in your guys' time. Fatality I want to see in this movie. And it'd be the stupidest thing in the world because it never makes sense. One fatality that Kung Lao has is he takes his hat off and he throws it as hard as he can at the ground, and it starts spinning like a razor blade in place, and he drags someone by the legs clean through it and halves them through the hat.
I think we're gonna. I have a feeling we're gonna see a version of that at least once.
Oh, I would not be able to contain myself in that theater. And I couldn't contain myself in that theater. I lost my fucking shit when that fatality happened.
Wow. I mean, you called it.
You bet your ass I did. There was no way they were getting Kung Lao in that movie without having that happen.
Okay, you know what? Let's start there. How do you feel about Kung Lao actually being Kung Lao in this movie?
It was great. The guy who played him exactly how he was in all the games. And he is a smug asshole in most of the video games with how he's acted because he kind of mentions his heritage. As a point, the difference is in the video games, Liu Kang is kind of like the chosen one, and then Kung Lao is a second branch guy that is super jealous of Liu Kang because he's the descendant of Kung Lao, but Liu Kang is always the one that takes care of everything. But Kung Lao was great. He had the teleport to his hat. He had the swagger. He had the saunter of how he actually like moves in the games and stuff like that. I loved him. Kung Lao was freaking great. It was about time he was in a Mortal Kombat movie, and he was awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm glad we got to see. Well, honestly, I'm glad we kind of got to see everyone, or at least specifically Earthrealm versus Outer World. Like everyone gets their moment to shine, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I can't think of a bad casting in this movie. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think everyone was great.
Yeah, no, everyone is perfectly cast.
Yeah,
I think though it's kind of obvious that my favorite is Scorpion, who is played by, let me get his name right.
Sanada is his last name, I think.
Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
That's like picture perfect casting for
Scorpion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But by the way, for those who don't know, I think it was like a couple days ago that Warner Brothers put out the first 7 minutes on YouTube, and I tried my hardest not to watch it because I wanted to wait I saw it in theaters. I'm glad I made that decision because holy shit.
I couldn't help myself. The second I was on vacation visiting my youth pastor, and then all of a sudden I get a message from my buddy Morgan. I was in the bathroom at a restaurant, and he's like, "You need to get out here. They released the first 7 minutes." I'm like, "What?" I went running out there. I'm like, "We need to watch this now." Oh, like I couldn't get over it. It's just everything is, in my opinion, the character interactions, especially with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, were to a T. Because for those who don't know, V1 Sub-Zero, major asshole, always has been, always will be. The Sub-Zero that everybody else knows that's a good guy is Kuai Lang. That's his little brother that comes after. First one, major asshole. Always has been, always will be. He becomes Noob Saibot, for those who don't know. Which, that guy signed on for 4 more films. He's going to be Noob Saibot for 4 more films because he was awesome in this movie. If they make him.
I'm pretty sure they're going to happen. And I'm pretty sure they teased Noob Saibot pretty intensely throughout this film.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, you being more of the, what do I want to say?
The casual.
The casual and the person that was walking into it, not really outside of watching the animated film, Scorpion's Revenge, and then the other 2 films. What are some things you're wondering about?
Well, okay, here's one question because it's kind of the inciting incident of this movie. Does anyone play by the fucking rules?
Never. And that is one thing that I will again go to. That is another complaint about this movie, that literally people are making up to hate this film. Literally making it up. Is that the thing has no structure. And that there's no tournament. And there always has been. No, there fucking hasn't. Never once have they ever actually articulated a proper tournament. You just have that because that's how a fighting game works when you play it as a video game. They cheat every time. Every single game, a new person comes in, cheats a new way, Liu Kang wins LOL, and then you make the sequel. That's the formula for every single Mortal Kombat game until Deadly Alliance, when they finally killed Liu Kang.
Okay, I'm glad this was addressed because I will admit one of my problems was that there was no tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. However, they clearly made up for that in the way they structured the third act, which was everyone gets basically everyone gets a dance partner, and
they do, and they come as close to making this a tournament as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Because the heroes wanted one, the villains don't. That's how Mortal Kombat rolls every time.
Pretty much.
But yeah, there was something I wanted to ask you really bad, and now I can't remember what it is. But what were some of your favorite moments?
Besides the opening, and aside from the second fight, which was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I think a lot of my favorite moments, and I can't believe I'm saying this, involve Kano.
Remember when I told you he becomes the most Australian thing to ever Australian because of that first movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is him at like 15 levels below what he is in the video games.
Yeah, in this movie, he sounds a little bit more British, but he still kind of has like the Australian swagger.
Yeah, he does. Like, I did not expect them to make that big of a character out of Kano, but I'm glad they did because that guy was awesome.
I think one of his best moments was when Liu Kang and Kung Lao were just like taunting the hell out of him for a solid 5 minutes.
Yep. You get to see the smug assholes the Shaolin monks can be when they want to be. He was very much the comedy relief character, and that's what I want to say Kano is in all the video games. He's the guy there to say the one-liners and be irritating to Sonya and anyone who's related to her. But yeah, that's just what he was. And Kano got his big fatality that he does in the games, the heart rip.
Oh, yep. And he gets that pretty early on, too.
Yeah. They had Reptile. Hey, there, Mike. Remember how bad Reptile looked in the first movie?
He looks great here.
Exactly. He looks a little more like an iguana than I was expecting, but he looks awesome. I really like, and they never casted anyone as him because obviously he's nothing. So I was not expecting to see Reptile in this movie. So that was a really cool surprise.
When he first popped up, like I saw him, like, you know, his invisible outline, and then, you know, he shows up at the barn. I'm like, Reptile?
Yeah, they said how did Shang Tsung describe him? It was something, the stealthy whatever. They say like his technical name or his race's name, because he is from a race of like underlings that are from a certain whatever that I can't exactly remember, that I think Shao Kahn or Shang Tsung like rescued. Every single character has their own giant backstory after a while. Like starting in Deadly Alliance, they started really dropping a lot of like hardcore lore details. But yeah.
His species is Saurian.
Saurian, that's what it was. Okay, Saurian, yes. They had a lot of people in this that I was not expecting them to have. I will tell you right now, something that you don't know, Mike, because again, you're not a huge gamer, and like I don't think you would have played many of the Mortal Kombat games. Starting in Deadly Alliance, there was a string of Mortal Kombat games that everyone despised. Just absolutely despised. It was Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon. Because they didn't, well, a good chunk of people despised because they didn't like the story, they didn't like the MacGuffins they introduced, like the Kamidogu. It's a part of each realm that they have to come together to make this giant piece and stuff like that. And then it ended before they rebooted it in 9 into what everyone likes now. One character that literally only showed up in Deadly Alliance and then got put into Armageddon because everybody in it was Natara, the Batgirl. I almost had an out-of-body experience when I saw that Natara was in that movie, because she's one of those, just no one liked her, no one played as her. She looked cool, but we didn't put any time into making her a character. We just threw her out there, never mentioned her again. And I was like, Natara's in this movie? Like, what?
I mean, yeah, that is one of those. It's one of those characters that you only add if you're a fan of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, speaking of additions, we kind of have to talk about Cole Young.
Mm-hmm. We do.
I have mixed thoughts. A lot of our friends really despised him.
Yep.
And I get why. This movie didn't need an OC to be the de facto protagonist. It could have been Liu Kang or Kung Lao or like or it could have been Johnny Cage but played by an Asian American.
Yeah, could have been.
There are so many different options that they could have gone with, but instead they chose a distant relative of the Hisashi family.
Yep. And I get it, and I'm never going to fault anyone that didn't want him in there. The only thing that I'm going to argue, though, and it's been hammered at me by family members, by friends, by random people on YouTube, is that he is Ray levels of Mary Sue in this movie. He's not. He gets his ass kicked for 90% of this movie.
He does.
And he gets 4 hits in on Sub-Zero at the end after Scorpion has kicked the shit out of him for most of that fight. And he kills Goro. People don't like that he kills Goro because they feel like they jobbed out Goro. Goro beat the ever-living fuck out of Cole Young for 90% of that fight. He gets his Arcana, which is whatever, the thing they made up to excuse the powers that these people have. And then Cole, an actual skilled fighter, beats him. People are bitching that Goro was better handled in the first movie. Goro lost the fight in 30 seconds to Johnny Cage after he got punched in the nuts and pushed off a cliff.
Which doesn't happen in the games.
Nope. He gets beat by Liu Kang in an actual fight. This is what I'm getting back to about the rant that I'm going to get over with, because I cannot motherfucking stand people and their level of just nothing's ever good enough. Ever. 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 Immediately before this film got released, I knew that it was not going to be compared and based off the video games. Just knew it wasn't. What was going to happen, it was going to be compared to the 1995 film, which is mentally challenged. Absolutely mentally challenged. And what happened? Exactly that. People were pissed because there's no rock music in it. Mortal Kombat never had rock music unless it was inside that film. People were mad that there was not a long-haired jokey Raiden in this movie. Only in that film. People were mad that Shang Tsung didn't act the way that he did in that film. You know why? He didn't act that way because he acts like the actual fucking character in the video game, who's not a horn dog for the random blonde lady who has the boobs. He acted like an actual ancient fucking sorcerer who's trying to take over Earth. People were mad that there wasn't all sorts of other things that were legitimately only in that fucking movie. This game has everyone to a T cast, acted, and portrayed as they are in those video games. And if you go back and say otherwise, you're legitimately lying to yourself through factual information that is presented in those video games. You're lying to make up complaints. People are bitching about this game, bitching about this video game movie because their characters didn't get the proper thing that they wanted. This is a video game that has over 100 characters in it. My favorite character's not in the fucking movie. Am I going to say that I hate it because my favorite character's not in it? No, because I'm not a fucking selfish dumbass. Everyone, because their character was not untouchable or whatever in this movie, is bitching. This is why we don't get video game movies. Because if they get accepted by critics, we bash the fuck out of them. Why? Because we aren't happy if it's not exactly 100% how we fucking want it. And if one thing's wrong, it's automatically a 0 film. I am sick and motherfucking tired of a film not being able to be in the middle. It's either made by God himself and presented on a silver platter or shit out by some random hog in a trot somewhere. And I'm fucking sick of it. People are lying about facts in this film to bitch about it. They're acting like this is like fucking Birdemic levels of bad. People have not seen bad films if they're describing this to be as bad as what they say it is. Can you not like this film because things happened in it that don't want you to be the way it is? Abso-fucking-lutely you can. But if you are going to point blank lie and say you don't like this film just because they didn't perfectly suit out the one of the 90 characters that are in this game that you like more than everybody else, or if it wasn't an exact copy or a reboot of that 95 film, you shouldn't have fucking went to saw it in the first place because you weren't going to be happy anyway. You are not going into this with an equal head. You are going in ready to hate it because it wasn't the thing that was compared to the 95 film that I still love, but if we're being perfectly honest, is not a good movie. They're basing this off the games, and they're comparing it to the games. Is what it should be. And if you're going off of the fucking games, it is accurate. Whether you think it's well made or not is a different story, but if you're going to bitch about it being inaccurate, outside of Cole Young, who, by the way, in Mortal Kombat, every fucking game they create a new character. Every motherfucking game they make a new character. If you don't like them, that's fine. But if you're going to bitch at the sheer fact, just at the sheer fact that a new character is introduced, you are bitching at the way these games are made. Don't like them because you don't like them, but don't bitch for the sheer fact that a new character's in it. Rant is done. We'll go through the rest of it. Holy shit, I had to get that off my chest because otherwise I was going to explode. Okay. Cole Young. Do I think that they needed him in this movie? No. I don't think it was needed, but it's the decision that they made, and that's fine. Now, do I think that they could have better served with their characters? I will complete with other people on that. I will not say this movie is perfect, and I do think that Cole Young was not needed. Do I think it was dumb? No, because I get what they were going for. And to be perfectly honest, if we're going by Mortal Kombat characters, he's possibly one of the most underpowered Mortal Kombat characters in the history of the entire series. He has armor that absorbs damage and redistributes it. So therefore, if he gets in a fight and no one hits him, he's no more powerful than what he is normally.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
He's one of the most weak characters ever introduced into the entire series, and people are calling him a Mary Sue because he killed Goro, who gets killed every time in the first Mortal Kombat, and got 4 hits in on Sub-Zero, and saying that he won the fight for Scorpion, he didn't. Sub-Zero was getting his ass kicked that whole fight, and Cole hit him like 4 times. And he assisted in the fatality that Scorpion was already setting up. Now, you and me can both agree that he probably wasn't needed. And I get that. I agree with you that he was not needed. I completely agree. Absolutely, completely agree. Was not needed. Now, how they handle him going forward, if they keep giving him more powers, that will change my opinion on what people calling him a Mary Sue, because currently he is not even remotely close. So we will see. But if people want to talk about bad OCs being put in, you should go play them PS2 games, because there's a lot of just dreck that's in there. Absolute dreck.
Actually, let me ask you. Speaking of Mary Sue's, are there any characters who would have been a worse Mary Sue from maybe from one of those PS2 games?
Taven. I can't think of what her name is, but she's actually shown in one of the walls in Raiden's temple. It's the girl that has that veil over her face. I can't think of what her name is, but her and her husband. Hold on, I'm gonna have to look this up, or I'm gonna get the information wrong. Taven and Dagon are 2 brothers that are a part of a prophecy in Mortal Kombat that kind of ends it, and then they start out in I'm gonna have to look this up. Taven Mortal Kombat. Or actually, another one would have been Shujinko. In Mortal Kombat, there's a bunch when they started doing things called Conquest Mode, there was a character called Shujinko who all through the entire game is tricked by a person called Onaga, the Dragon King, into collecting these things called Kamidogu. And through the entire thing, he learns the fighting style of every Mortal Kombat character ever made. In lore, he learns them all. He learns all their special moves. He learns all their fighting techniques and becomes the ultimate warrior and defeats the villain of the game by combining the might of every warrior ever made and killing Onaga.
Wow.
So people want to talk about Mary Sue's in Mortal Kombat. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Sorry. Shujinko is terrible. Absolutely terrible. His name is literally main character in Japanese. That's what Shujinko is. They were that creative. And Taven is another one where Protector of Argo, Sorceress of the abilities in the future. Delia, I think. But anyway, Taven is the son of these 2 big people in Edenia that are basically some of the most powerful people in the setters of how Mortal Kombat happens ever. Him and his brother Dagon go through and kill all these people, never even get opposed by all these Mortal Kombat characters. They kill Scorpion, anybody that comes into contact with him, he just wrecks. Why? Because he's important. Never say why, he just is. And yeah, they would have been 100 times worse. That's why people hate those games, because of those type of characters, because they had to put up with them to play the conquest mode, which you didn't have in those games. You just had an arcade mode.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared this up, because I would have been miserable just reading nothing but Cole Young as a Mary Sue for like the next couple weeks.
It's not, and you know what the worst part is? A lot of it is, and I'm not saying it's everybody, but everyone's like, I'm the biggest fan of more, and I'm not either. I'm not. I just only played a good chunk of those games for a while because my parents were poor and I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to pay the 6 games that I had. Everyone's just like, I'm the biggest fan of Mortal Kombat, and I know everything could hit do it. Oh my gosh, because Cole's in here. He's this guy that does the thing because he killed Goro. He's more powerful than her. You want to know something that's really dumb, Mike? Every character is Mary Sue in Mortal Kombat. Every character. Legitimately.
Because it's a fighting game.
Because it's a fighting
game. And they all have their abilities.
Well, they all have their abilities, yes, but we get a mini Mortal Kombat movie every single time a Mortal Kombat game comes out. You want to know who's going to lose? You're not playing. You're not playing as them.
That makes sense.
If you're not playing as them, they become wet tissue paper. Johnny Cage, in the beginning of Mortal Kombat X, while he is protecting 3 people on a crashing helicopter, single-handedly, without any assistance, kicks the ever-living shit out of Scorpion and Sub-Zero by himself.
And he's just literally an actor.
And he's an actor. And at this point, he didn't even have his special shadow powers that he has in the games. Just regular Joe Schmo, Johnny Cage, kicks the shit out of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The literal faces of Mortal Kombat. Why? Because you're not playing as them. Mary Sue is the name of Mortal Kombat, depending on who they want to win. That's why when that got brought up by all tons of people, I'm just like, y'all don't know what series you're talking about. You don't. Who was the original Mary Sue? Liu fucking Kang.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay, yeah. No matter who was there, good old Liu Kang beats him.
Oh, okay. Going back to the movie proper.
Yes, movie proper. Let's get on the movie.
One thing I really liked about Liu Kang specifically is seeing his animality and not and it not looking like total garbage.
You get to see him actually summon the dragon. They're like, we don't need to make Immortal Liu Kang a dragon. We'll just make a fire dragon because that's a lot cooler and it'll look a lot cooler.
Like I have been waiting to see a proper representation of the dragon, and I saw it. It looks amazing, and just
yep,
so good.
You're damn right. It looked awesome. And Ludi Lin, I don't know who else they could have picked to be Liu Kang. He looked exactly like him. He spoke exactly like him. He was the perfect person to be him. It was awesome. Also, small thing before we get too far, because we're kind of jumping all around here. So let's kind of get into the movie here. In the beginning of the film, Jax comes in and he's looking for Cole, and he mentions that Cole's the guy who took the belt off of Eddie Tobias. I thought that was kind of cool because Tobias is one of the guys that co-created Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, Eddie Tobias.
Yep. Well, it's John Tobias.
John Tobias and Ed Boon.
And Ed Boon. So they created the two names technically. I guess I literally didn't catch that till right now. That it's Ed Boon and John. I literally didn't catch that till right now. That says something. Holy crap! But yeah. And also, I like that that's how they decided what Cole's powers are, because at the beginning of the movie they call him a human punching bag, and he literally gets more powerful if he takes a beating.
You know, I gotta say the foreshadowing in this movie is a lot more clever than I realized.
What are you? I thought you were about to say it's better than the '95 film. I was like, what you wanted them to say? Use the armor that brings life.
No.
Yeah. And how do you like Mehcad Brooks as Jax?
I thought he was great. I was already a Mehcad Brooks fan because, I watch all the CW shit.
Yeah.
So, and getting past the Steve Harvey jokes, I legitimately think he crushed it in the role.
And the best part was, as soon as you see him in the film, you see that he has a complete, actual goatee and not just the mustache. Just that one shot made it look like he had the Steve Harvey mustache. And, man, I love how they were just like, hey, we're a rated R film, and we're going to be perfectly okay with people swearing. It's immediately when he's fighting Sub-Zero, when he goes, 6 tours, motherfucker. I'm like, okay, this is old school Jax and kind of new school Jax mixed. I was like, yeah, Mehcad Brooks is a good choice. I'm really happy we got him.
One thing I kind of find amusing about all the different adaptations of Mortal Kombat is the different ways that Jax gets his arms ripped off.
Yep, it's one thing where they're pretty consistently changing, and I think that's great. You just need to know that at some point, if Jax has arms, whatever you're watching, he's going to lose them. Who's he fighting? It's like what do I say, Hot Tub Time Machine, while they're waiting for the guy to get his arm cut off. It's kind of like, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? But they showed it in the trailer this time, so at least we knew. I think this might be my favorite version, how he gets his arms ripped off.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between this and the version that we see in Scorpion's Revenge,
where Goro rips his arms off.
Although that one kind of seems a little on the nose.
Just a touch. And yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He was really good. Sonya, I think they knocked out of the park.
This is my favorite version of Sonya. It's hands down.
It's mine too. She was really good. I don't know this girl from anything else. I know almost nothing from anybody else in this entire film. Almost nothing. And they were all great because they could actually, like, they picked people that they thought would fit the roles, and it did good. They didn't go for big Hollywood names. They did what they needed, give or take. They did that to save money. But
I'm trying to think where else I would have known her. The actress's name is Jessica McNamee, and I think she had she had a small role in Battle of the Sexes.
I see that.
But other than that, she's basically basically a nobody.
Yeah. Which, hey, they were going to have auditions and they were going to keep it low, but like, it's one of these things where I can't remember who exactly said it, but there's some times where I appreciate where you get a nobody and I just look at them and I'm like, that's Sonya. And I'm not like, that's Tom Cruise. It's kind of nice to have that every now and then where you just see them as them.
I agree.
Yeah. Before we get too much of the actual plot points, who out of the new characters that were introduced did you like the most?
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of the names of.
And if you can't think of the names, just describe the character. I'll know what you're talking about.
It was cool seeing Molina.
What, Molina? Remember Molina in Annihilation? Random girl in pink with size.
That was not Molina. I refuse to believe that was Molina. But here she's a badass.
Exactly. And I was kind of I was about to be upset. I'm like, they're not making her part Tarkatan. Like, she had regular teeth, but then they actually see the point where she gets pissed off and her mouth splits. So it's like, that's why her mouth is always bloody, because she's trying to hide it. Like, she's trying to actually make her look like, because Molina is supposed to be a clone of Katana, but they like split her with Tarkatan DNA, and then they put the veil over her so that she looks like Molina or like Katana in like disguise if she put blue on. They actually did it smart here. Like, she'll actually look like her and have like regular mouth until she gets pissed off and it actually rips away and shows the Tarkatan part of her. I was like,
Now here's a question: Do you think that same actress will play Katana in the sequel?
I want her to. I want her to really bad. Part of me thinks that's why they killed her, and that's part of why I don't think we saw Katana in this movie. Because we haven't seen Shao Kahn yet, and I think Shao Kahn has her like locked in a cage somewhere.
That makes sense,
because that is one of the ones you could save for a pop in the later movie, because it's like that's one of the big guns. Her and Johnny are two of the big guns that they're saving for a sequel. So,
the other characters I liked were I liked Cabal and his relationship with Kano. Like their back and forth was kind of fun.
Cabal was great. He's the dumb idiot version, like kind of weird Chicagoan that he is in like the 9 and on. I didn't think they'd have in the games. I was like, they're never gonna make him talk like he does in those games, and they did. It was cool.
And that's Damon Harriman as the voice.
Damon Harriman. That's not ringing any bells, but again, perfectly fine. Damon here is good. And for anyone who's a wrestling fan, Nathan Jones was Reiko.
That is good casting.
That is good casting. And Reiko in the Mortal Kombat games is just some goober who likes to hang out and sit on Shao Kahn's throne. That is his literal introduction as some idiot that sat on Shao Kahn's throne, put his helmet on, and then gets like, pow! In a way. Because he secretly wants to take over for Shao Kahn, but he's not good enough to do it. But like later on, they big him up to like there's Reiko Accords in Outworld that people have to listen to. But I was like, loser, you made into a big guy, but it's whatever. Reiko is like they beefed him up for what they needed him to be in this film, and that's all he needed to be. So I was happy with that. This is man. I think my favorite casting in this movie, honestly, was Kung Lao. It sucks that he's gone. They had to kill somebody, but I wish they would have had the balls to kill Liu Kang. I wish they would have kind of had the balls to do it, because if you were going to keep Kung Lao, who's been shafted for those first 2 Mortal Kombat movies, and I get it, Liu Kang can do a lot more than Kung Lao because Kung Lao has a teleport in the hat, but that dude they got to play Kung Lao was choice. But who else did? Yeah, Cabal was really good. Kano might be the most out of the park casting they got, and just this fucking with just all of his like his references, everything was great. He was borderlining the Deadpool of this movie, which I was kind of okay with. And
I mean, someone had to be.
Someone had to be. Like, if Nicole is like, you said, I was going to go for a fucking jog, but you fucking idiot. And also, every time someone died, it is like when Kano ripped the heart out of Reptile, it's like, Kano wins. They had all the dumb win lines from the game, but they felt natural because these people are idiots. Also, have to mention, they accurately used the term flawless victory in this movie. I have to applaud them because they didn't know how to do it in the first movie.
And guess who had the flawless victory?
Kung Lao. And it made me so happy. Cocky bastard. Man, I can't think of the guy's name again. I want him to be in more stuff. If he could ever be a cocky martial artist, that guy needs to be in more stuff.
Josh Lawson, buddy, you were awesome in this movie. Oh boy. And yeah, on Wikipedia, next to his character's name, it says a loudmouth Australian redneck.
It works. It works. It really does. He shot a fucking fireball over his head. How do I learn that? Am I gonna get superpowers?
Now, how did you feel about Lord Raiden in this version?
That's what Raiden is.
Yep.
That's and you know what? They had a little bit of Lambert in there toward the end. I thought you weren't supposed to interfere. He just laughs slightly because he's like, we wanted to interfere the whole time, but he's kind of just like, Shang Tsung did, and I just did it more cleverly. Raiden was good. He's a lot younger than what they normally portray Raiden to be. Which
he's younger and he's a little bit more of a hard ass.
Yeah, exactly. Which Raiden in the games, he's kind of like stern, but it's just kind of like in the later games, it's like, why isn't anyone listening to me? Kind of thing. But yeah, he's more of a hard ass. And that's honestly, if you're gonna be a god.
Also, Kano calls him Gandalf, and that kind of made me chuckle.
Oh, absolutely. It was perfect. That's why I want like part of me thinks that for like they obviously show that Kano didn't get like magic smoke dusted away, and he gets stabbed. Like you obviously know that Kano has that eye plate. He gets scarred by Reptile, so everyone's like, yeah, he's gonna get the eye plate, and then all of a sudden he gets stabbed in the eye by Sonya in the exact same fucking eye. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling that like they saved Cabal from borderline dead in the video games, and that's why he ends up in that thing. Like in a lot of video games, he gets taken out by some extermination squad. Like one of them, he gets roasted alive by Shiva. And I have a feeling that they're going to somehow bring Kano back to life and then have him have the eye plate, because no one can't say that they didn't like Kano in this movie. people that hated this movie love Kano.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Did you... Okay, so from a person who is not a fan of the games, I have to ask, like, the Arcana thing is 1,000% made up. 1,000% made up.
That was actually my next question. Like, what is the difference between Arcana and Animality?
They're both things that got made up. Like, in the games, what you have to understand, Mike, is that, like, these characters just have powers and they never get explained ever. Like, Kano can jump in the air, spin on an axis point, and Tasmanian Devil at somebody. He's a human. There is nothing special or ancient about him. He's just a human that could do that. And then it's like, in the games, you had a fatality. It means you killed the person at the end of the round. And then, I don't remember when they get introduced, but then there's a brutality, which is an even worse fatality. And then you got animality, which is not the stupid whatever the hell it was in the second one where it's like, you need to find your animality to become a true warrior. It was just, you have fatalities in this game. What would be another thing we could do? Hey, Ed, John, what if we make them turn into animals? What the hell would we call that? An animality. Sure. That's what animality is. Like, there's also, Mike, there's friendship.
Friendship.
You think I'm making that up. It's not. There's just random things where they're like, they do a code and then they like put a hat on them and then celebrate and then don't kill them. There's also babalities where you can turn them into babies. I'm not making this shit up. I'm not. I wish I was. I'm not.
I'm laughing because I know you're not.
It's like the part is where like this stuff gets introduced in these movies, and the people that don't play the games are like, that must be something cool. I'm like, no, it's just some shit some executive made up to like put at the end of the game. And it's they're just a different version of. And then there's like in Shaolin Monks, they came up with the multality where you just kill multiple people. And then there's X-rays where like you saw Scorpion's Revenge. The X-ray is basically every time someone hits someone.
So that's where that came from.
That's where that came from. They were introduced in 9. And what they were basically fatalities if you press the R1 button that took like 25% of someone's health. And 9 times out of 10, they looked more fatal than what the fatalities did, but you kept on fighting after you received them. Like one of them, I can't remember who it was, they shove a spear right through someone's throat, spin it around, grab the other ends of the knife, and then spike them on their head. And then the person just gets up, dusts themselves off, and keeps on fighting. I'm like, huh? But yeah, it's that. Did you feel that the actual like sense of the tournament, give or take, like it was more established that it's crooked, how all this is run was better established in this movie? Because that is a big thing that is in the video games, that every time that the Outworld won, they had to cheat.
I think just the fact that this was all happening like before the tournament is it makes it clear that like the Outworld just gives zero fucks about the rules.
Yep. And then again, they basically, I love how they point blank say it in this movie, is that Shang Tsung goes, the elder gods are utterly useless and don't care. It's like, finally someone said it. Because they're just like, we made the rules. They win.
I think one thing I love about this movie that I imagine people who didn't like it just completely despise was the fact that although like the character arcs are taken seriously, specific lines of dialogue are thrown in like that to make fun of the franchise. And it's kind of glorious.
It's kind of glorious. I love the fact that someone fucking brought up that Kombat spelled wrong.
Of course it was going to be Cole.
It was going to be Cole, exactly. It's like, you're making this stuff up. Look, they even spelled it wrong. That is one thing that's also inside it, like inside the games, Mike. Classic is spelt with a K. Everything. Everything except for some people's names, like Johnny Cage is spelt with a C. There's very finite circumstances where they don't use a K. But if it's just a word that's not in someone's name, it is automatically spelt with a K if it starts with a K. I don't know why that ever started, but it's on the first game and it went all the way through. And the best part is, in one of the demos that they played on a stage at like an E3 or something, they spelt it correctly, like with a C, and then Ed Boon's like, we're going to fix that later. Don't worry about it. Yeah. This take out the fact here. I'm gonna propose something at you. And in Mortal Kombat X, there's a character named Takeshi Takeda that you're probably gonna hear about if you look too much into people bitching about Cole, who is Kenshi, who is like the one golden child out of all those PS2 games that everyone loves. He's a blind swordsman that is telepathic that got like tricked by Shang Tsung. Who that's why he got blinded, is when he found this like possessed sword. He's a really good character. He has a son, and then he leaves him with Scorpion to get trained. And then he learns all the way of the Shirai Ryu and basically becomes a meld of Kenshi and Scorpion. So like, people were very upset that they just like that. Someone I'm personal friends with on Facebook said that Cole is Tesco brand Takeshi Takeda. And would you have been more okay if they would have, like, I don't even know if he would have known if he was an OC or not. Like, if they would have had Takeshi in there somehow, if he was an original character from a game versus Cole being in there?
Honestly, like what you just described, like it would honestly take like just one more pass at the script to just make Cole a watered down version of that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it's what they got to do to each their own. We're gonna see how they do the next film based on how. I think this is gonna make enough money to at least get one sequel. I don't know if it'll get a third, but
as of this recording, it's already made $9 million on Friday's box office.
Nice. I don't know how much it costed. Is it in China or Japan right now?
I don't know about that, but as far as the production budget, it's only $55 million.
Oh, then yeah, if it makes $100 million, you can make a sequel. But yeah, there'll be stuff they have to work on, and they can change it. They could kill off Cole, honestly, if people get sick of it. If it makes enough money, but they know that people didn't like Cole, they could kill him off. But whose fight did you like the most in the movie?
I'm trying to think of besides Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, because that's going to be everyone's answer.
Absolutely. Well, not everyone's, because not everyone liked how it was handled. But anyway,
I liked. Was it Liu Kang versus
Cabal?
Yeah, Cabal.
Yeah,
I like that one, and I liked the scene where Jax like figures out how to use his arms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a fatality that's from the games as well. The head slap.
Yep.
That's another one that's in the game. Oh.
I just think that was like a cool moment, and honestly kind of makes up for the lunacy that was Annihilation.
I still can't get over where they're like, yeah, I'm a better character without these arms. I'm like, that wasn't a confidence issue. Jackson Briggs got his arms ripped off by an asshole. What asshole, depending on the situation. But yeah. Yeah, that was a good thing. And that was probably the most bullshit of, like, if anyone's going to complain about people getting powers, that's probably the one that I'm going to excuse anybody off of like, they gave him these arms and then they were tiny and puny, and then he got the other arms just cast upon them. How my headcanon is, because they're being chosen by the Elder Gods. The Elder Gods can do whatever the fuck they want. That's why they're choosing the people that they get special powers. That's my excuse for why they're doing it, and why the reason I think they made to explain why these people have these powers. But yeah, the one, if anyone's going to bitch about it, is probably going to be Jax's arms, but I do like how he gets them and he just beats the fuck out of Reiko. Yeah, these motherfuckers work. That was good.
Okay, now speaking about the chosen ones, it's pretty obvious that the tattoos is like the dragon tattoo is like original to this film, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And in the games and the previous films, who like the champions that are chosen are just
they're just chosen.
Yeah.
Which, I'm either way about that. I kind of like the fact that it's ordained that the Elder Gods thought these were good fighters and stuff like that, and you gotta get stuff out of them. And then I also like the fact that it was just like cool because there's also times where it's like we're gonna let Johnny Cage fight for us. Why? Because it's a movie star that says he knows how to fight, and then Raiden would go, no. Like, there's points where you have to come up with a reason why this Thunder God is going to go, we are one fight away from losing, and we're going to let Ninja Mime fight? Excuse me? Like, there has to be some point where they're kind of like, we have a reason why we picked them. Like, everybody makes sense, and then there's a couple of them where they're kind of like, blah, 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 blah. Like, in this instance, Cole makes more sense than Johnny.
Yeah. Okay, that's actually a good that's actually a good justification for Cole as the protagonist, because like I said, unless you race bend Johnny like to be an Asian American, sort of more like a Bruce Lee / Jackie Chan than like, I don't know, Van Damme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think I'm understanding more like why Cole was chosen.
Yeah,
but one of the things I thought I wasn't going to like about the tattoos was that, wait, why the hell does Sonya not have one? She's like the best fighter out of all of them.
Yeah, I didn't get that at first either. But the fact she got to kill Kano and take his, I thought was pretty cool. And like she got ridiculed.
That's what like redeemed it.
Yep. Yeah. And again, the last thing about Cole, I swear to God, there was a person that came up with a fan theory that I thought was going to come true, is that they thought that Cole was a fighter that was gonna, like, when the movie came out, was a fighter that they thought was going to try to get into acting. And his stage name was going to be Johnny Cage. I was like, I would have been okay with that, honestly. I wouldn't have been against it.
I honestly thought, like, until the movie came out and people said like, no, Johnny Cage is in the movie, I swear up until the last minute I'm like, wait, this is how they get Johnny Cage in the movie.
Yeah, but now he's going to be a big deal in the second one, and I get it. They didn't want to whitewash another Mortal Kombat movie. I get it. I 100% get it. That is one thing that does not need to be done, because in this video game they should have the basically mostly Asian American cast that it has. So saving Johnny was a good call, but yeah, that one I would have been very okay with. What? I'm trying to think of more exact things to talk about this. Like, what is something outside, like, that you genuinely didn't like? Genuinely just did not like?
Honestly, it's not necessarily a problem specific with this movie. I even brought this up in my Letterboxd review. Every single Mortal Kombat movie does at least one thing right. In 95, it was like the final battle between Liu Kang and
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung. I can never remember that name.
I was having this discussion with my buddy earlier. Mortal Kombat was discussed with just obsessed with S names. Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, Shinnok. They like, I'm like, you're asking people to be confused, but go ahead.
Okay. So Mortal Kombat 95 had Shang Tsung versus Liu Kang.
Yep.
Annihilation had a better Raiden. Well,
yes.
a better everyone except for Johnny Cage.
Yes.
And more action, and some of the best bad dialogue ever.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And you will die.
who is the one who played Shao Kahn? Brian
Brian Thompson?
something like that.
Brian something.
I cannot get it is glorious. I cannot get that out of my head ever since I saw it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Scorpion's Revenge probably has the best. Well, it's the best Scorpion movie, even though it has to also be a Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah. I'm really shocked that they called that Scorpion's Revenge. That was a Mortal Kombat movie that had a Scorpion B-side in it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they just did that for marketing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, Scorpion's Revenge is probably the best. It's the best Scorpion story, and this movie just looks the best out of all of them.
Yep.
But my general problem with adapting Mortal Kombat as a film series is that, and believe me, I have the same problem with comic book movies too.
Yep.
Video games and comic books, I personally feel work better in long form storytelling.
For the most part, yeah.
And to be fair, I also haven't seen the web series Mortal Kombat Legends or Legacy.
That thing is a different animal. That would be one thing that we wouldn't mind doing reviews on, because that thing has some weird setups for how they make the characters. That you want to talk about stuff that plays with lore, that thing's in another galaxy.
We'll probably cover it someday if I can find the damn thing.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is, in my opinion, the perfect Mortal Kombat adaptation would be, and I'm saying this because Invincible on Amazon Prime does a damn good job of this. Like a 10-episode animated series where like each episode is like a round in the tournament.
Could do that. I would like it to be more, I know this is nitpicking, I'd like it to be more versed in the anime end of the animation versus purely like American style animated, because I think it would fit the aesthetic better, but same way.
No, I agree with you. And the studio behind Scorpion's Revenge, Studio Mir, is a Korean animation house, and you know they've done work on Legends of Korra, Voltron, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. They're like, that style would work perfectly for this franchise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it would. The only thing I would say is that if they did it, we just need to cool down on the X-rays a touch.
Yeah, I'll admit the X-rays got a little excessive in that movie.
Yeah, just a tad. Like every now and then was fine, but every time that you spike someone, it doesn't need it. I will admit, I think they could have spruced up the training session in the middle. Like they could have had a few more moments, like at the dinner table when they just like pissed off Kano. That I thought was a really good way to get the like spirit out of him. And like they weren't going to get it with Jax because obviously they had his moment was good. I wish they could have, that middle section could use some rejiggering a little bit. I like the idea of it again, because that's when we're getting Kung Lao. If we were only going to get Kung Lao in that thing, you make sure Kung Lao's doing it. But yeah, it's that could have been also like a lore dump, and I would have been okay. They could have just talked about stuff if they weren't going to have a lot. But it's all.
I mean that's just the other problem I have with adapting Mortal Kombat as a movie, because there is just so much lore.
More than people realize.
So one thing I kind of respected about like the production of this movie is apparently on set, the director Simon McCoy, he like banned anyone from talking about sequels. He basically said like, we're focusing on this movie.
Good. I appreciate that, because the only setup they had is that Cole's going to Hollywood, which is fine, because if they don't do anything past that, that's still an okay thing. And that's how these movies should, like, I get in the MCU, they sprinkle the crap because they've got, not everyone has Kevin Feige, and not everyone needs that. If you want to make a good movie, you should be focused on the one you're making. I respect the ever living hell out of that. I did not know that, but I respect that.
Now, whether or not people like agree that that's how the film comes off is completely subjective. But I just kind of respect that that like the director on set at least told people just focus on the movie.
The hard part about that though is that I don't think you can make a Mortal Kombat movie without it sounding like you're going to make a sequel.
Oh no, of course not. Like
because the characters I get that. Like even if he wasn't trying to, I think it's almost borderline impossible because the characters in the movie themselves would be like, "I'm going to get you next time," kind of thing. It's really hard to do that. But yeah, they didn't do, because like here's the difference between a good example and a bad example, in my opinion. This one was like, hey, we're gonna go to Hollywood. Cool. If it happens, it happens. End of Mortal Kombat in 95. Shao Kahn is just in the air with an orbit portal going, we will decide this in Mortal Kombat. And then our fighters are like, all right, let's go. It's like, I wonder if they're gonna make a sequel, guys. Oh yeah. That's I was trying to discuss this with a friend of mine, and it's really hard. Who would you like to play Johnny Cage?
See, this is really tough. I didn't actually make this joke in my review, but something I took out of my review is I wrote like, I'm glad that we have an Asian American in the lead as opposed to, say, Noah Centineo playing Johnny Cage.
Yeah. True.
But no, that's a really good question. I have no idea who I want to play.
I could give you the answer if they were going for big names, who I think would be the literal definition of the perfect Johnny Cage. The problem is, I don't think that they're obviously not going for big names. They want people that could do the fight scenes, that know their shit, and can escape into the roles instead of you looking at them. If this was a different Mortal Kombat movie where they were going for, we're going to put big names in every one of those, then we're going to have stunt doubles do their part, they would have Chris Pratt as Johnny Cage.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of fits the role, or like Channing Tatum.
Yeah, it's like,
easy targets.
Yeah, the lovable douchebag. Like that's what they do to a T.
I have a question though. How old is Johnny Cage?
In the movies, he's regularly in like his 30s, or in the games, I should say.
Okay.
Unless you play like X or something where he has a daughter that grows up, which Cassie's never going to be in these movies, and that just breaks my heart. Like the oldest I think he's ever been in is like his 50s, because he has a daughter that's 18. Like, and then they have a time skip.
Okay. I am gonna look up the age of Scott Adkins because
even if he's not Johnny Cage, Scott Adkins should play somebody.
Okay,
Scott Adkins can do his shit.
Okay, Scott Adkins is 44 years old.
Okay.
So he's a little bit older than like Cage in his prime. But if they want like action film credibility for the sequel, announcing Scott Adkins as Johnny Cage would like people would flip their shit.
People would flip their shit, but now that you've mentioned Scott Adkins, I almost don't want him as Johnny Cage. I want him as someone where Scott Adkins can look like a fearful motherfucker. Because I think Scott Adkins can pull off, I'm going to kick the shit out of you. Oh, if they don't use Scott Adkins in one of these films, he's perfect. Even if he's not Johnny, he's perfect for these because he's a person that you can let escape into this stuff. He was in like Doctor Strange for like 5 minutes. People forget that, but he was just one of the random goons that Doctor Strange fights in the Sanctum Sanctorium. Oh man.
I will probably ask people on Twitter like who they want to play Johnny Cage.
And keep in mind when you ask it that it's like these level of actors, not the regular big thing, because that's not what they're gonna get.
Yeah. Two basic requirements are A, he's gotta be at least like no older than mid-30s, assuming they want to make like 7 more of these.
Absolutely. That's another thing. they have to be able to get their body through putting these. Like, yeah.
So criteria number 1, they need to be like no older than mid-30s. And criteria number 2, he can be white, he could be Caucasian, or he can be a person of color, but he has to be a fighter.
He has to be a fighter. Absolutely. I'm one of those people that also I get in this to a lot with people. If the color of the skin of the person does not affect who that person is, I don't give a rat's ass. I don't. Like
I'm the same way. They're like the only exceptions are like you can't have a white actor play Black Panther or
exactly.
Things like that.
Exactly. Like when, you'll know this, even though it was in comic books, when they found out that a black person was going to play Wally West in The Flash, people lost their shit because, Wally West is white and has orange hair. I'm like, name one time in your entire life where you went and bought a comic book and went, all right, I can't wait to watch Wally West have orange hair in this panel. I just can't wait. Who, boy, he's white right there. Oh, it's my favorite. You didn't. You never did once in your life. This got people to going, they could do that, then we might as well just make a Martin Luther King movie where he's white. I'm like, you don't understand the statement you just said. You don't. That is the reason where, at heart, there's a little bit of racism in you. Just touch. Just a little bit. But yeah, cast however you want. You could make a black Johnny Cage. I wouldn't care. You could make an Asian Johnny Cage. You could make a freaking, what do I want to say, Indian Johnny Cage. It does not matter. Does not matter.
Okay, I think I figured it out.
Oh boy.
If you're going to cast a non-white actor to play Johnny Cage, you get Iko Uwais from the Raid films.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That is not bad. But also, that is another film where they should just be picking people out of for roles, period.
Well, yes.
A lot of them. The Raid, any like the John Wick films, anyone that they got in there. I just got a flashback in my head of fan art of someone of Keanu Reeves as Kenshi, and I fangasmed for a short second. They would never. You know what? That is one person who would actually go into the film for pretty cheap. I got a feeling.
You think so?
He would. And actually, you know who I would want to play Kenshi in these films, and you could get him. He's a really good dude, and he's played Kenshi before, is Dan Southworth. Not a lot of people are going to know who he is. He voices Virgil in Devil May Cry, and he was also the Red Ranger he's the Quantum Ranger in Power Rangers Time Force. He's done a bunch of stunt acting and mocap for stuff before. But Dan Southworth can do all the scenes. The dude can act. He would be perfect if they get I'd start a petition for anybody. Be Dan Southworth to be in there. And if you want some random goobers just to do fight scenes like those old Power Rangers cast, like Johnny Young Bosch, they get them for mocap in video games because they can pull off the stunts. Just saying. But yeah. Anyway. thoughts on the movie as a whole, because we're over an hour and 10 minutes approaching now.
I warned people that I would have a lot to say. Final thoughts on this film. It's a movie that you should see in theaters.
Yes.
I mean, if as long as you feel comfortable. But like if you're a fan of the Mortal Kombat games, or you just want to see like a relatively mid-sized budget, but a very bloody, gory action movie. This one did it for me. I dug the hell out of it. I have my reservations, but as a whole, I enjoyed watching the film.
Yeah, and this to me is the best video game we've ever made, and I know that is a low bar, but this is to me is genuinely a good movie, video game or not, and that's one thing that I kind of want to stop have happening again with how I hate how people do stuff.
Yeah, like, we keep moving the goalpost every time.
We keep moving the goalpost, but also it's like it's good because it's a video game movie. Stop that. It's a movie. I need to stop doing that. People like that need to stop is like, yeah, it's a comic book movie, so I'm not going to watch it. Shut up. It's a movie that has comic book heroes in it. We need to stop sanctioning it like it's a different thing. It's not. It's just stop. Please stop that. Everyone just stop it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Please go see it and don't judge it off things that it should not be judged off of. That's all I ask. All right, Mike, where is my mouse? First of all, holy crap, there it goes. All right, Mike, where can people find you?
So you guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. Check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. Find me in all the various Facebook groups, just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can check out all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, wherever. And everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we.
Absolutely. That'll be everything. I keep forget to do it sometimes, so that's all the Renegade info right there. You can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero. I have been kind of slacking on doing streaming because I've been working a lot and I've been gone, but I will be getting back into it. So you'll mainly find me there and on this YouTube channel, obviously, but you're already watching it. So we will see you guys. What's the next movie that we would be reviewing even?
Good question. We'll figure that off. That out off air.
I can't come up with it off the top of my head, but we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.